Hey everybody, and welcome back to another commission painting vlog. This is the first week in December of the year of our Lord 2015, and I'm actually managing to get this video out in a decent amount of time, which is good, but at the same time I feel like I should have gotten other videos out by now, but I actually have plans. I have plans this month. For example, when I'm done doing this, I'm going to do some videos on some more Kingdom Death monster models that I'm doing. And these are not your regular Kingdom Death models. I've got some of the kind of resin special edition minis. This is the... I don't remember what this one's called. Maybe the Thief? I've got two Warlords, the male and female, and I already completed the Archivist. So that one was pretty cool. Very olivey green. I like it very much. And they're all based on the art cards that the minis are based on. So paint is based on the art, which is the minis. Never mind, I'm confusing myself. So last month was an interesting month for me in that it's the first time in a year that I've really been sick for a kind of extended period. Now, and this was really over the course of about 2 weeks, and what that did was I really had one day where I was just too sick to work at all, where I just sort of lounged around feeling miserable all day. But for the remainder of that 2-week period, I just felt kind of bad, and it wasn't conducive to wanting to work. So where I normally try to work between 8 and 10 hours a day, I was lucky if I could get in 6. And then I would just be done, like mentally done. And that really points out the difference between what one might consider a regular job and doing commission work. And that is that there's really no safety net. So if you're not doing work, you're not getting paid. And if you're not getting paid, you can't pay your bills. There's no sick days. There's nothing, you really grow to appreciate that, the whole sick day thing that a lot of jobs provide you with. And so when, I have a couple of weeks where I'm just not feeling up to my regular productivity levels, it means that my pay drops because I'm not getting as much work done as I would normally do. So it's disconcerting. Let's just say that, disconcerting to feel like you're kind of working without any kind of safety net. But, what are you going to do? It's the job. So I did manage to get work done, though. It's not like I didn't do anything. It's just that I didn't get as much done as I might have liked. And in fact, I feel like I'm about a week behind. One of the things I did was I did a repaint on Mistress Death. This is, I think, the 3rd one of these I've done in my lifetime. I haven't done one in a couple of years, back when these were first released, but I got a request for a HeroClix repaint, which I don't do very often. I also did my first set of Guild Ball minis. And for those of you who don't know, Guild Ball is a fantasy sport game that is a little bit like soccer or football for those of you not in the United States, but with a fair amount of just straight up combat as well. And I did not just the players, but I did some stuff that is really meant to be kind of sideline figures. And this is the butchers, so there's this whole butcher theme, and I'll throw some pictures up somewhere for you to look at. And then I did, and you may have seen a video on this, I did the Glacier King for the Trollbloods in Hordes. And rather than just paint it straight up, I actually put some extra effort into it because I wanted to experiment with ice effects. And I'm really happy with the way that experiment turned out, and so was the client. So that's always nice. What else did I manage to accomplish? I did some other Hordes models. Actually, I did kind of a bunch of Hordes models in November. And of course, more Kingdom Death, including mostly assembling a full set, including the armor kits. And I was actually originally under the impression that the armor kits were models that you could take pieces on and off of, depending on, you know, what your character may have acquired over time. Turns out that's not really the case. So the armor kits, in a way, are, if I was a player of the game, it would be tough for me to decide how I wanted to model these things. I mean, it's really cool because you have all these options, but it's almost like too much choice, too many possibilities. So you end up not knowing which way you want to go. And for the client, I don't think he was fully aware of that either. So I built those armor kits to a point where you could kind of see poses and kind of get a general gist of the models, but left all of the details off so that he could make a decision later on. And this was not painting at all. This was only assembling, and that was also so that he could actually just play the game, which he loves. Thinks it's one of the best board games ever created, which is saying a lot because this is somebody whose opinion I really respect. On top of that, I managed to squeeze out a little bit of a few dust models, and those are really holdovers from October, things that probably should have been finished then. And then another Phoenix done in blue for a 40k army as opposed to being for a Kingdom Death specifically. So that's not a bad batch of minis to get done considering the 2 weeks of just not feeling like it. But that's okay. So as you might imagine, in addition to my painting suffering, my gaming also suffered last month. I don't know that I played any tabletop board games last month. Just wasn't feeling it, just wasn't feeling up to it. But what that did end up doing was getting me back into video games a little bit, because it's a lot easier sometimes to just sit down in front of the computer and decide that, you know, you're going to just veg out there instead of playing with other people and not necessarily feeling like engaging on that level. So what I did was I fired up XCOM Enemy Within, and the XCOM games have been one of my favorite video games from way back, and I think it's really because, to me, they are really good representations of a tabletop miniatures game, but on the computer. And Enemy Within even more so than the original games. And so in many ways it gives me the same thrill I get from tabletop miniatures games. But I can do it, set it up, and go and be done in a half hour or an hour and not have to clean anything up later. But at the same time, it gets me back into tabletop miniatures games. Like, I'll look at a map and go, oh, wouldn't it be really cool to make that map in real life, IRL? And so there's actually been a number of maps that have been sort of inspirational for me. And not that it's actually gotten me to do anything, mind you, but I figure even just giving me that feeling of motivation, of wanting to do it, is plenty good too, because that spills over into motivation for painting as well. But in particular, there is a kind of an overpass map that It's a very, very narrow channeled map, lots of cars, so lots of places for your guys to get cover and move back and forth. And anyway, I actually want to go in more detail about it. For those of you who've never played it before, I'm going to do a video review / overview. And if you don't mind, I might even do a Let's Play, because that is something that would be fairly straightforward for me to do in my off time, in my free time, if you will, in the evenings. I don't actually have that much free time, but I feel like I could add this in. But the idea would be to do sort of a Let's Play of XCOM, give you the guys the opportunity to see it if you've never seen it before, and then find maybe other games, video games specifically, that for me fulfill that same kind of tabletop gaming thrill, and maybe do other games like that. For example, my son just picked up Mordheim for the computer on Steam, and he's been really enjoying that. And there's a group made up of people who work at and play at my game store who are going to start playing that together regularly. So you can see that there is definitely some crossover appeal. But if you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, leave it in the comments, let me know. Something I have been doing gaming related is slowly building up a collection of Batman the Miniatures game miniatures. And I've only painted one so far, and I haven't photographed it yet, which maybe I'll do, and maybe it'll be here when I do, but I actually painted a Batman for myself, and I don't always prioritize photographing my own minis. But that game has been sort of scratching on the back of my head, saying, hey, maybe you should play this. But mostly I think I'm just interested in the minis because they're cool and they're superheroes. The game itself is a little bit more straight up competitive than narrative than I'm liking right now in miniatures games. I would rather play something that has more of a narrative feel to it. And to be fair to the game, though, the scenarios are more objective based than just beating the hell out of each other based. But it still feels like one of those games that's all about, the competition as opposed to, creating a cool story on the tabletop. So it may not end up being my cup of tea, but there are elements of the game that I really think I will enjoy, so I'm going to give it a shot at some point. Also in gaming, I have let my son know that we need to get back to our Star Wars Imperial Assault campaign, which, as I've mentioned in the past, we are enjoying the hell out of, and it's really only the fact that I just wasn't feeling up to gaming much at all last month is the only reason we hadn't gotten any more done. But that's a fantastic game, and I've been picking up miniatures for it, even painting a few miniatures for it, and again, haven't photographed them because I don't prioritize my own minis when it comes to doing photography. You would think that I would just go, oh, I've already got the stuff set up to shoot minis, I'll just put these in, but I never think about it. So again, looking forward to that, and I think we're at least about a third of the way through the campaign, and we're just doing it 2-player, and it works out just fine like that, so that'll be great. That'll be a lot of fun. So let's go back to talking about miniature painting again. I bought some more of the Warcolors paints, and at this point I have nearly the entire line. I think I'm probably missing less than 8 colors overall. I got a sample of the metallics, so I don't have all of those. I'm missing a couple of other colors, And I think that's it. I think, yeah, it's got to be somewhere around a half a dozen paints that I don't have, and those are primarily in the metallics line. And I'm really enjoying them. One of the things that I've discovered is that they work really, really well through the airbrush, and not straight from the bottle. People have asked me this on more than one occasion as to whether or not you could spray them directly. And it's possible, but they're really just a little bit too thick for that. You might be able to do some of their metallics. I haven't tried them yet, but their metallics tend to be a little bit more liquid than the standard colors. So those might go straight through, but that's not really the important part. To me, the important part is how do they behave in the airbrush. And what I've been doing is mixing them about 1-to-1 with Liquitex airbrush medium. And that's the other thing, is that I normally don't find that I can be that consistent with my thinning, because most paints tend to vary from bottle to bottle on kind of how thick they are, so you kind of have to eyeball the thickness. But I've discovered that these are pretty consistent, and so if I do a drop of color and a drop of the medium, it looks thick. It looks thicker than I would normally spray, but it works just fine, and the results are pretty fantastic. I don't get a lot of dry tip, where the paint builds up on the needle. It does happen, but it doesn't happen as fast as, say, for example, using straight Vallejo Model Air or Game Air paints. Those things dry pretty quick on the tip. They're not too opaque. And one of the things I like to do with airbrushing is obviously getting those nice transitions between colors. If you try to do that with a lot of airbrush paints, specifically I'm thinking the Vallejo paints, straight from the bottle, it's really tough to get those transitions because the colors are way too opaque, and so you end up with kind of these spotty lines, where it looks like you're getting some kind of spatter, but it's really just the fact that the paint is so opaque that every place where any bit of that paint touches, it's visible. Whereas if you have a semi-translucent color, it just blends out a lot better, and you don't see those little dots. And these are great for that. They've been really, really good, and I've just been enjoying the results that I get. Also, the colors are really nice. I'm actually, one of the things I'm going to be doing soon is some recipes for different colors that I really like. For example, their reds, they have five red. Well, actually, each of the colors has 5 things in the range, but their red range is really nice. And so, for example, you can take red 3, 4, and 5 and black and have this really nice, rich, dark red, or you can do 3, 2, and 1 and get a really brilliant, vivid kind of orangey red, like a fiery red. And they work really, really well. Because of the way the colors are set up and the way they blend so well together, those reds, I've been so much more successful with those reds than I have been with any other paints. So I've been excited by that, and I will probably share some of those recipes with you. For example, the flesh tones are not so obvious because they don't have the same range the way that some of the other ones do. It doesn't necessarily just go from dark to light. They have 2 really light flesh tones, a kind of a bronze flesh tone, a very pink flesh tone, and then a very dark flesh tone. And they don't it's not like you could just go, well, use 543. It doesn't work like that. And in fact, if you buy their Flesh range, it includes a few colors from the Flesh line and then a couple of their browns. And for example, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the base coat for the Flesh that I'm doing on this figure is actually brown 1. And it's a really nice kind of different flesh tone. So yeah, recipes, that'll be videos coming up in the future. And that's going to do it for today. So thank you everybody for watching again. If you liked this video, please click a like on the video. If you want to make sure you see more of these videos in the future, then definitely subscribe if you have not done so already. Hey, and just a reminder, comments about video games that could be of interest to miniatures gamers. Would you be horrified were I to do more videos? Well, I haven't done any videos on them yet, but were I to do videos on them, and I'm going to do at least one, would you be upset by this, or would you be interested? Would you be intrigued? Or perhaps I should just start an entirely new channel for that. What do you think? I want to know. And hey, thank you to all of you Patreon subscribers. The money that comes from that is super helpful, and I can't thank you enough. And if you aren't subscribing via Patreon yet, you might want to think about it. That's all I'm saying. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you all later.